Tuwapigie makofi. Tumpigie makofi. Ni Mrs. ama ni Miss? We have to be very careful there. Si ndio? Tusiharibu soko. Ni Mrs. Universe. Tumpigie makofi. Aya, Vera Beauty College. Amazing. Let's appreciate Vera. Yes. Mr. Kamunge, and please pass our regards to Mrs. Kamunge Alice, the ambassador. We are doing business incubation and acceleration at that technical school. And Deo, tutakucheki kando, sawa? Hiyo shule lazima tufanye mambo. Aya. We have Inspire Teenagers Foundation. Tuwapigie makofi. We have Tanganyika Secondary School. I think they are, yes, tuwapigie makofi. Merisho School, tuwapigie makofi. They are at the back there. Lukenya University, tumpigie makofi. Good. We have Canada Mathare Education Trust. Alikuwa amekuja pale, maybe ametoka nje. Tumpigie makofi. UNESCO, where is UNESCO? Tuwapigie makofi. They are there. Aqua Hub Kenya, where are they? Wow, tuwapigie makofi. We have Plugging Kenya, tuwapigie makofi. Plan International, nimeona Mr. Deo hapa, tupigie makofi. Ringa Mix Secondary School, tuwapigie makofi, they are there. We have State House Girls, they are also able to participate in the National Mentorship Acceleration Plan. Where are they? State House Girls. Hawa wako karibu pale na unye, si ndio? Mpitishe salamu zetu. Awazi. And then we have Olympic Secondary School. Hiyo ni shule inatoanga ma MP kama the late Ken Okoth. I'm proud of that school in the middle of Kibera. Si ndio? Tuambeanga Kibera is our mind is not garbage. We produce guys who are education giants in this country. And I am happy Ken Okoth was number 3. For how many years in a row? For 3 years in a row for the best CDF management learned and schooled in Olympic. M-Pesa Foundation, they were also here. Tuwapigie makofi. Tandem, tuwapigie makofi. Oracle Academy, let's appreciate them. Oracle Academy. We have the Sky Girls, tuwapigie makofi. Immobilis Technology Institute, where are they? Tuwapigie makofi. And then we have the World Vision. And then also we had Blind Trust Africa. Tuwapigie makofi at the back there. We had the Moringa School. Let's appreciate them. Young Engineers Kenya. Young Engineers, did they come? I think they are on the way. I'm happy when we reach out to the Island Ambassador. You know, Island, they are the economic hub. All these tech companies, they have the HQs where? In Ireland. I'm happy they have Young Engineers Initiative here in Kenya. Let's appreciate them. Semaster, we had an invitation from there. Let's appreciate them. And then County Pension Fund. We have Equity Bank. Let's appreciate them. Let's appreciate Equity Bank. And then in absentia, we want to appreciate GENU, Generation Unlimited. That is under the Presidential Delivery Unit. Madam Elizabeth Kimulu, she could have been here, but she have a function in Mombasa. Let's appreciate them. Riera University VC also sent apology, but we also have to appreciate that we've been working together. Let's appreciate them. And the Catholic University also VC sent apology. Let's appreciate them. So why I'm doing this is because my CEO mentioned that we'll be launching the National Steering Committee that will be running with the Transforming Education Summit. And you see, it's a bigger agenda. It contributes to the meeting that is going to happen at the New York, the United Nations General Assembly, the 77th meeting that will be talking about the transforming education. And we are happy the ministry acknowledged that we are doing it. There was a meeting in, my brother, you say it's Paris, right? Not Paris. Oh, yes. If you went to a group of schools and... So I think in Kenya here, we are happy that we are convening this meeting to support the ministry, right? So thank you very much, and I want to hand it over to our MC to bring in the first panel. Thereafter, we'll be able to go for lunch. So munipigie makofi. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vincent. The owner of BMW car number KDH 938K. You're needed outside urgently. Yes, so we're moving on swiftly. Next, we're going to have a very fast panel discussion, which is going to be talking about policy frameworks and curriculum development. And some of the key areas that they are going to be talking about and discussing is on elaborate on concepts of developing viable policy frameworks that fit Kenya's education curriculum and align with international standards, and also talk about the strides that have been put in place and necessary reforms that can make our education more competitive. To help us go through this panel is Mr. Frank Otieno, who's the manager newspaper in Education Standard Group PLC. Karibu sana, Mr. Frank Otieno, and as you come, introduce your panel. Oh, he's here. Karibu sana, Mr. Frank. Let's give a round of applause to Mr. Frank Otieno.
Thank you, Madam MC. Mine is very simple. I've been tasked to moderate a session that is very key for this wonderful gathering. By introduction, my name is Frank Otieno. My name is Frank Otieno from Standard Media Group. I'm the manager in charge of a section called Newspapers in Education, manager NIE. NIE is a program that makes sure that we engage with the schools, we enroll them so that they buy copies from us. These copies are supplied every Tuesday to these schools, and the schools appreciate the content that is in that copy, which has a lot of education issues. And in fact, we're expanding the pages so that anything that has happened in education space like this one here now should be captured in those pages. And therefore, I think I'm talking to the right people and in the right forum. So my panel is going to be made of the following very able people in the education space. Ms. Jane Nyaga, Assistant Director, Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. Where are you, Madam? Karibu. Welcome. Welcome, Jane Nyaga. Thank you. Then joining us online will be Dr. Philip Mutisia, Professor of Education, North Carolina Central University. I don't know whether I've pronounced it right, Carolina or Carolina? Carolina, I think so. Karibu, Madam, Karibu Kit. Is he online? He'll be online. North Carolina. Okay, let's proceed. We shall also have online Mr. Otoa Sifuna, teacher at Dar es Salaam, International Academy, Tanzania. I hope he'll be online at some point. I don't know. Thank you. And then on stage, we should also have Madam Martha Odundo, Deputy Director of Education, Office of the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Education. Martha Odundo is coming. Thank you. Karibu sana, Madam. Karibu. Karibu. I don't know if I should sit in the middle or pande hii. Karibu, Madam. I think I'll sit in the middle so that I can reach both of you. Thank you. Yes. So, our main task here today in this Transforming Education Summit 2022 is policy frameworks and curriculum development. And I want to confirm, first of all, if the microphones are working so that, can you test that? Can you test it? Just say 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll request that you remove your mask so that we appreciate how God created you. Thank you, madam. Thank you very much. Yes. Good. Can you just say 1, 2, 3, 4?
1, 2, 3, 4.
What about yours?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Is she audible enough? Thank you. We can take it up. Now, we are talking about education reforms in this country when things are really taking shape. In terms of curriculum, we are aware that we are moving from 844 to CBC and so on. So we really have a lot to talk about when it comes to policy frameworks and curriculum development, because I belong in so many WhatsApp groups where people keep on complaining about this and that. So when you complain a lot but you don't give solutions, then I think you are not the right person to be lecturing Professor Magoha or Dr. Juan and so on. We should be here, we should be heard talking about what should be there, not what is not going right. Because I'm aware that Kenya is a country where people can really criticize. People want to criticize all the time and they look for mistakes from people. Recently I saw Professor Magoha, he just made a small joke and somebody made it a big issue. And he talked about some lady, oh, who are you from? Where are you coming from? Are you, or then, yeah, it's now an issue. So I don't know why people are so full of hatred in this country. Education needs to be people who seek to provide solutions. Now, if I begin with Miss Jen Nyaga. Kindly let's have our phones in silent. My first question to you is, education in Kenya has made tremendous changes over the years to fit international standards and to shape the learner's mind and develop people who are problem solvers of the 21st century. However, the viability of the learning process depends much on the curriculum developed by KICD and the Ministry of Education to realize the academic core curriculum excellence in our schools. Now, the question goes, as the curriculum developers, what are the new areas you are working on that can shape our education for the future?
Thank you, sir. To respond to your question, I think there are many areas within the competency-based curriculum that are going to help the country to transform the country and achieve the 21st century skills. And to start with, the great shift from the objective-based to competency-based curriculum is a great milestone where we are focusing not just on knowledge, but paying attention to skills, attitudes, and values. So we want to develop a whole person who is able to work with his hands, develop the cognitive, the psychomotor skills, they're able to do things, and also their attitudes are right and their behaviors are right. We also have very key programs that are new, like we have the Community Service Learning Program, which is helping the learners to actualize what they learn, to apply what they learn in class. So learners are given the opportunity. So it's not just learning the theory, but an opportunity is provided for the learner to go out into the community and be able to identify real needs in the community and come up with ways of solving those challenges within the community. So the learners aspire to be problem solvers, yeah? They're able to identify the problems, not just leave it at just identifying, but also coming up with solutions. So that is also very key. It's a new program that is within the CBC that is going to be done. And it is across all levels of education, starting from the early years, and it is integrated up to junior school, but at the senior school is a compulsory, one of the compulsory core learning areas. And then the other key thing within the new curriculum is that if you look at our basic education curriculum framework, we are really focusing on values, because remember our vision is of an engaged, empowered, and ethical citizen. So the issues of values are very key, and values comprise the first pillar of the basic education curriculum framework. So we are very purposeful, and in the curriculum we have identified 8 core values which we are mainstreaming in all the subjects across the curriculum. And then we have what we are also referring to as the Parental Empowerment and Engagement Program, where we want the parents also to be engaged in the learning in the learning process, so that they are able to monitor the progress that the learner is making. We also have, within the curriculum, we have identified 7 core competencies. 7 core competencies, and these really are the 21st century skills. We have communication and collaboration, critical thinking and problem solving. We want them to be problem solvers. We have creativity and imagination. We want them to be innovators. We have citizenship, because we are also reckoning that in our country we have issues of citizenship. So citizenship is now a core competency in the curriculum. We have learning to learn, because learning never ends, it's a continuous process. We want learners and teachers to be co-learners. And we also have self-efficacy. We want to have learners who have strong, high self-esteem, who can be able to set goals and follow them up. And we also have digital literacy as one of the core competencies. So the 7 are core, and they are embedded within each of the learning areas at all the levels, from the lowest to the highest level. So those are just a few of the areas that are new that we are embarking on, and that we believe that once this is fully implemented, it will transform our society, transform education and transform society.
Yes, Madam, before I cross over to Madam Martha Odundo, I want to pick your mind on an issue that really dominated the social media space over the past week. We are talking of moving away from cognitive domain of learning, so that we embrace maybe affective and the psychomotor domain. However, don't you think in your own assessment that teachers are taking too long to realize that we are moving that direction? I'm talking specifically about an issue that happened in a school called Nyamninia Primary School, where a teacher still stresses that a child must attain 400 marks, failure to which you are caned thoroughly. Talk to me about that.
Thank you very much. That was a very unfortunate incident that happened. But you're saying it's a process, and we are moving forward. A change takes time. And of course, those are some of the things we are saying we need to address as we move ahead with the new curriculum. Because we are talking about an ethical citizen. If you look at what happened in that school, then the ethics, the issues of ethics then are thrown through the window. And therefore, that is what we want to bring back to our society, so that we can have people who have values, who are not just educated, but they are also ethical. And therefore, we are very intentional in the new curriculum to address the issues of values. And actually, we have isolated a program in areas that we think are very key. We have programs that are running beyond addressing them in the formal curriculum. We have non-formal programs, and we have the values-based education program that is really going to articulate the issues of values. And we expect to pilot that program so that we can be able to identify the best practices, so that we can have a change. Because we all reckon that in our society, we are actually in a moral crisis. So we really need to think and work around to ensure that we address the issues of values, and therefore so that we can talk about an ethical society. So I agree with you that that was quite unfortunate. And when it comes to the teachers, we are embarking on capacity building, which is continuous. And of course, we want the teachers to have a change of mindset and a paradigm shift, even in the way they teach. So we are talking about transformative pedagogies, where the teacher is no longer the sage at the stage, but a guide on the side to guide the teacher. The teacher is now a facilitator of learning. So the teacher becomes a co-learner. So even as we talk about the values, it means that even for the teachers, they need to unlearn, and so that they can learn and improve. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Madam, for your insights and for your for sharing with us what you think should be the right thing to do in the current situation in education. Now, moving to Madam Martha Odundo, you are a seasoned educationist in this country, and I think you really appreciate the journey that we have had since we had 7-4-2-3, then we have moved to 8-4-4 system, and now we have competency-based curriculum. So as a long-serving educationist and expert, do you believe that the changes the country has taken over the years in the education sector puts Kenya in the right direction to achieving a fully transformed quality education?
Thank you very much, Frank Otieno. Yeah, first of all, to understand the question, I would like to start by defining what quality education may mean. Yeah? Taken from various perspectives, several people have different definitions, including the human rights groups. But generally, it has no one definition. It may include measurement of inputs and outputs, like, for example, number of teachers, number of classrooms, number of learners, you know, all those educational outcomes. It may also mean, to some people, performance in examinations, and perhaps that's why that teacher was scanning, because the understanding of the teacher was that quality education is only attained when you get certain grades or certain marks. It may also, from a human rights perspective or rights approach, then it may also mean that you take into consideration the whole welfare of a learner, that is the environment in which they are learning, the content, everything, the concept of what Dr. Tony Devine was just speaking about. How is that school? Is it safe for a learner and all that? Does it take care of a holistic learner so that the learner comes out sound in mind, healthy physically, and even morally and in all aspects? So having defined that, going through the journey of education in Kenya, it also includes relevance, by the way, and even equity, issues of equity, maybe the gender parity and such like, the equitable distribution of resources and all that. So if you continue improving so that even the areas in the marginalized places are able to get education, then you can have a measure of some quality improvement in education. So having said all that, and having tried to define what education is, then I want us to go through the journey of the policy frameworks that we've had to take us through the different curriculum frameworks. Now, before independence, the colonial period, we had 3 forms of education, of 3 forms of curriculum being provided. And there was that curriculum that was meant for the Europeans, that was meant to equip them with white-collar jobs. And then there was that one for the other middle level who are artisans, and mostly they were Asian origin. And then there was education for the Africans, which was only tailor-made to do hand jobs, yeah? The jobs that are merely vocational, like being drivers and all that, you know, the low-level jobs. And so when we attained independence in 1963, the government commissioned Ominde Commission, and through the commission, there were certain objectives that were picked out for the country. So those are the objectives that formed the curriculum. And so if we are to measure in that term, the Ominde Commission had one of the major objectives is to unite the country, bring the national unity and identity, yeah? And therefore, that is when the 7-4-2-3 curriculum was introduced. And it was made common. They abolished the segregated type of curriculum. And so it was common to all. And so everybody had to follow that curriculum. And to even ensure that certain subjects were emphasized, like Swahili, for the issues of uniting the country. Geography and history were also identified as some of the core subjects that can bring in national unity. Then from there, another milestone that we had was in 1976 when we had the government or the president commissioning the Gashadi Committee on Education. And they still emphasized the same, but went ahead now to try to make education respond to the needs of the country in terms of employment. And so there was a lot of emphasis on vocational education. And that is, I think, where the evolution of technical schools came about. Those who went through that system that time, I understand that there were in high school, you could choose to go to a technical school or just the other system, because I didn't go through that, but I hear there was that. And so that is how it came about, that now there were even technical schools, so that people were hands-on. And this was meant also to address the issue of employment and all that. And there was also emphasis on agriculture. There was the introduction of junior secondary, and then secondary school was the area where now somebody would choose specialization. That is so closely linked to what we have currently in the competency-based, only that the pathways have been...
Madam Mudundo, let me interject. I've heard you talk about there was Kiswahili that was meant to unite this country. Yes. I really wonder how serious we are with that, what you have talked about in terms of Kiswahili. Because I'm one of the advocates of Kiswahili in this country, but I get disappointed when I go to schools and I speak to people in Swahili, they look at me like somebody who has not gone to school. Have we made our learners to believe that it is only English that makes you a scholar? I want you to talk to me about that, even yourself as you sit with me here. Do you speak Swahili outside there, or do you don't like Swahili?
Okay, at personal level, I think Swahili was the first language of all my children, even before their mother tongue. And I think maybe the environment determines that. But coming back to the school issue, I think our orientation is very, very different. And so there's a paradigm shift. If you can remember, just in this month, or I think late last month, the Bakita, yeah, and the Unesco made a Kiswahili Day in Africa and for the whole world. And that happened in Zanzibar. And the African Union has also ratified Kiswahili as the common language to be spoken across Africa. And so why would we be shy? So for me, I think it should not be that way, though it has been put that way. And maybe because of the orientation, maybe even from the colonial period, whereby now people who spoke English looked superior than those people who spoke the local language. But today we are saying it's the opposite. And the direction, even in the international arena, like the UNESCO has identified Kiswahili to be spoken all over the world. If you try these days even to apply international jobs, Kiswahili is one of the working languages that have been identified. And so I think for me, making Kiswahili big is good. And for those of us who don't know, this is a platform for sharing experience. It's very good to embrace Kiswahili because it can take you places. It's now the language, one of the emerging languages that the world is focusing onto. And even as Kenya, we are more advantaged. When you read all those international articles, you find that our future is very bright by expanding Kiswahili and even creating Kiswahili teachers and Kiswahili experts, because all these countries in Africa are going to teach Kiswahili at some level. And so if we prepare our workforce to specialize in Kiswahili, to become Kiswahili teachers, to become Kiswahili experts, translators, interpreters, and all that, then this issue of even unemployment will not be there, will be the expatriate in those African countries and in other parts of the world. So that is my response.
Wow, wonderful. I think she deserves a round of applause. Yes. I don't know whether our people online, our panelists, are they there? Anybody? Mr. Tua Sifuna? Toa Sifuna of Dar es Salaam? Not at all. The professor from Carolina? Not yet? Okay.
I am.
We'll get there when you'll let us know when we are ready with them. Okay, let me come to you, Madam. Madam, this name is disappearing. Madam Jane Nyaga. Yes. My second question to you is, by the way, do you appreciate what she has talked about in terms of Swahili?
Oh, yes, I do. And I want to add that it's actually a paradigm shift. I think it's the perception we had there before, where we look down upon Kiswahili, but things are changing. And we are not just focusing on Kiswahili, but also the indigenous languages. In CBC, we are going back to the indigenous languages, and they are now in the curriculum, because we want to emphasize that African identity and make our learners be proud to be Africans. So I echo what my colleague has said.
Thank you, Madam Jane Nyaga. Now, microphone yangu is kiki. Check 1, 2. Okay. Okay. Now, my second question to you, as a KICD person, share with this forum the journey of competency-based curriculum as the country gears towards junior secondary school next year. Actually, the main issue here is junior secondary school. It's the main issue that it's a thorn in flesh. Everybody is talking about. There's a lot of confusion. People are not understanding how are we moving forward. Who is joining where, and why are we calling? There is this aspect to this issue of this child is in this school but has to choose another school from another. I don't know. Can you just share with us so that we are in the clear picture?
Okay, thank you. Okay, the journey of CBC started back in 2019 when we rolled out CBC in the early years level, that is pre-primary 1, pre-primary 2, and grades 1 to 3. That was in 2019. And then every year we have been moving to the next grade. So in 2020, we moved to grade 4. In 2021, we moved to grade 5. In 2021, we moved to grade 5. In 2022, this year, we moved to grade 6. And 2023, next year, we are going to be moving to grade 7, which is the beginning of junior school. So it has been a process, and of course, before the 2019, we had done the needs assessment survey in 2016, and we piloted the CBC curriculum in 2018 to prepare us to roll out in 2019. So after 2023, then we'll be moving to grade 8, grade 9, and we'll go the whole cycle by 2027. That's when we'll go the whole cycle up to senior school. Yes, so that is what I want to say. So we are ready in terms of curriculum, in terms of preparing the junior secondary school curriculum. We are ready. The books are ready, and particularly the grade 7. We are working on grade 8 for the materials to be prepared. And I think for the rollout next year for the grade 7, we are ready in terms of curriculum and curriculum support materials. Thank you.
Before I leave you on that matter, the retooling of this teacher that is supposed to be embracing CBC, because currently what we are made to understand is that the teachers that we have, they complain of having been not trained well to fit in. They are still 844-ish. How are we sure that we are moving with speed to make them now CBC compliant? Because without that, we are just talking, and implementation is really wanting. Yes.
Thank you very much. Teacher capacity building is a continuous process. And like I have said, we've been rolling out a grade every year. And before we roll out the grade, the target group is usually trained. So if we are rolling out grade 7, already this year, we have worked on training the grade 7 teachers who will teach next year. So that has been happening in collaboration with the Teacher Service Commission. The Teacher Service Commission are mandated to carry out continuous professional development of the teachers and capacity building. So that has been going on. Of course, when we train, we target a particular category. So we target the group that we prepare for the rollout for them to be able to implement the curriculum. So probably it may happen that if you talk to a teacher who is not in that target group, they may then say that they are not ready. But I am aware that the Teacher Service Commission has been very keen on the capacity building, and every other holiday they carry out training of teachers. So it's a continuous process, and it's going to continue. Even this year, there will still be further training, so that by the time we get to January next year, the teachers who will be tasked to implement the grade 7 curriculum will be ready. Yes.
Yeah, I was also very keenly following the presidential debates, and I noticed with a lot of disappointment that, actually this question is coming to you, Madam Odundo, shortly. Not much is being talked about in education space and even health. So let's narrow it down to education. Were you equally disappointed that no presidential candidate is talking about education, or even the moderators themselves were not even keen to bring out education issues? Is it because they don't know about these issues, or what? Even as I now marry that point with this question that I have written here, that do you believe that our education system and teaching concepts are aligned to our job market demands and geared towards solving our socio-economic problems?
Okay, not fully, but we are on the right track. We are on the right track in the sense that that is why the government has made a deliberate action or decision to reform the curriculum, and not only the curriculum, but also the system. So it's an overhaul of everything, so that what was missing can now be linked. And that is the point I was even coming to when I was giving my first response, is that in each and every stage, we cannot say that the government has not provided or did not provide quality education, because at each level, the government commissions experts to carry out research, and so the research informs in terms of the development needs and the development stage of a country. And that is why you see at independence, the emphasis was on certain objectives. And then come 1981, there was the change of the system and the curriculum, that is 844. I know that some people may want to say that 844 was a failure, but perhaps those were the findings of the government at that time, that 844 would address the needs of the country. And so after 30 years or so, the government has also made another deliberate action to change the system and curriculum so that it addresses the contemporary issues that we are talking about, the issues of technology, the issues of science, the issues of the job market. Whatever skills that are needed today for the job market are not the same ones that were needed 30 years ago. And so that is why we continuously, quality is a continuous endeavor, it's infinite. Yeah, you cannot just do things and then say that you are set for the next 100 or 30 years or 50 years. You will continuously improve on quality, and by improvement, you try to change the curriculum, you review the curriculum, you review the system. So to some extent, it has responded because how comes we have a workforce that is efficient? How comes we have people that are performing in the different sectors? But what we are saying is that now, maybe what we had is not now corresponding with the job market, and so we have to now realign ourselves. Yes.
Good. Now that brings me to this wonderful panelist, Professor Philip Mutisia, who is coming all the way from North Carolina Central University. I don't know what time it is there. My good professor, my good doctor there, tell me, what time is it, Kwanzaa? Then you come to this question that as Kenya, the Ministry of Education continues to carry out necessary reforms to adjust our education requirements, kindly share a comparison of education in Kenya and diaspora and what we need to do to achieve the best from our students.
Good morning here to you there. I hope it's still good morning. This is 4:58, almost 5 o'clock this in US, especially North Carolina. Yes, I'm Philip Masila Mutisia, Professor of Education, North Carolina Central University, and I almost missed the session because of confusion with the time. So it's my time to present my piece, right?
Yes, proceed, Professor.
All right. I'm going to share my screen here, so we can you can see. I like to speak with some visual, because I'm a visual learner. Okay. Somebody help allow me to share. I'm trying to share, but it's not coming on.
All right.
The moderator need to allow to share.
Can somebody help Professor there to share so that he can access the sharing component?
Yes.
And Professor, even as we wait for that, I really expected to hear some accent of Kikamba. Kumbe, you are in USA until now. You are so USA.
Yes, I've been here for too long. I'm ready to come home. Since I don't have much time, I want to get into the discussion where I prepared very well. And I know I don't have much time to cover, but I'm very, very pleased to be part of this forum. I've been working with Global Peace Foundation for a while now in my field, and of course, North Carolina Central is part of we have an MOU with the Global Peace Foundation in developing programs which will enhance and transform education. So I've been in many forums, and I appreciate having this opportunity to share my thoughts and my experiences, and of course, yes, contrast. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes. Proceed, Professor. We can see.
Okay, very good. I know I am supposed to address a few things where I think it's in the first slide here. How do we compare our education? I was so pleased to hear the presentation before me about integration of Swahili and language. And that's my strength, the strongest area. Integration of culture, technology, and teaching and learning. And because my background is in curriculum development and assessment and evaluation, the policies and planning. And I've had over 35 years doing this, so it's time. Today I'm just going to talk about the overview of what we're supposed to talk about, and the integration of culture as well, technology and transformation, and the policy influencing the change we need to see. First of all, I always like to invoke my mentor's statement or quote, which says, all education is with a purpose, and that purpose can only be political. For we either educate to liberate or we educate to dominate. I always start with that quote because that's most of the time we do not talk much about why education, what is education, and especially when we should not be questioning whether we should have Swahili or Kikamba in learning. That should be the first language, primary language, then English comes second. So, but we teach Swahili as a second language, which is unfortunate. And how do we integrate ethnic identity as opposed to, in this country, we, in the US and Europe and other outside, we try to deal with the race, which is different from ethnicity, but I can talk about that later. Paulo Freire, I want to point a good book by Paulo Freire of 1994 version about the pedagogy of the oppressed. If every teacher and educator, policymaker should read this book and the series of books. That, however, is his mentor, mentee, or my colleague also, Jane Vela, who worked in Tanzania and Africa for a long time, who graduated before me. We had the same philosophy about the pedagogy, and when we had the Paulo Freire visit us too. Then she says the means to education is the dialogue, but the end of dialogue is learning. However, the purpose is peace. So that's another, I'll let people, that idea marinate, because how the words matter, and how we communicate and how we translate and how we act, it matters a great deal. When we look for education, that we should see the end is peace. Peace of mind, peace of community, peace of security, security of the mind, liberated thinking, and so forth and so forth. But critical theory in learning, not critical race theory as they have here in the US. There's the essence of learning has to be based on critical literacy. And literacy as an applied research, transforming learning community. A community university model which I've created, which is based on service learning model. And you can see I created the idea of artificial intelligence, not artificial. Artificial means fake. Again, words matter here. The concepts matter. How we use in the curriculum and the conceptualization of what we need to think and act and apply. So we are mostly visual, especially when we do not grow together to understand even each other's feelings and observe. So we have to, whatever we present visually, as you can see, I cannot speak without my hands. That's today with the technology, there's enhanced that, and if technology is not enhancing how you perform to change the way we think, I think it is a dysfunction and misguiding, miseducating the people, because you cannot teach a hungry child if you did not teach them how to learn how to use what they have and create that as opposed to being given. I hear every time people say, government need to do this, government need to do this, teachers need to do this. But the problem is that compartmentalized system from K1 or standard 1 or kindergarten to 20, we see that each level does not speak to the other. And I'm speaking to the curriculum, Institute for Curriculum Development now, and the government policies. You find the higher education does not speak to lower education. TVETs don't even speak to the university. They're not tight. Over here, we have integrated that. Even we have an early college high school, especially in North Carolina. That's why I was trying to link the program through LEPUBs over there. We create mentoring programs. So we can show you can come after 8th grade or finish college in 4 years with a degree, whereby it takes about almost 6 years sometimes. So apprenticeship model, we need to go back to it, because that was what was producing. And if you look at the European, Scandinavian countries, you'll find that they follow apprenticeship model, which includes developing the whole child and the competency and all that. I hear, some of people opposing, and unfortunately, who are supposed to be educators, CBC. That's just devastating, because even here we find that we use mixed methods in American education. But what it lacks in Kenya, for example, in Africa, in education is historical philosophical, cultural, and psychological education approach, which prepares the individual in the society to be I don't think it is Ukraine war which caused the lack of destabilized. COVID showed us before Ukraine war. And interestingly, it comes up, the war comes out of COVID. But look at how it impacted everybody, even ugali on your table, your child. The child need to know that so they can learn to create. Right now, you have so much land and the air, sun, all free. But we don't teach back. When I was coming up at 5 years, I knew how to put a seed on the ground and grow it. We started with the herding small cows and goats, and then as you grow up, you advance. I was still schooling. My dad would say, clear this, palilia hapa, about 50 yards before you go to school, and I have to run about an hour or so to go to school. No shoes, no food, but today we teach even kids in Nairobi, even in the country, in Shagu, they think food is grown in groceries, which is a supermarket, which is sad. So university model is community, unity, and diversity in terms of understanding your community first. Who are you? And then how do you serve the community? You don't get served, you know. This is something I usually do in the training. This model, which shows a holistic view of every individual in the society.
Professor Mutisia, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, let me interject. Okay, we don't have time, but we really appreciate your scholarly input, and I just want you to talk to us about, very briefly, we are going into elections on August 9th. Are you disappointed that even as we speak, the main stakeholders in this process have not been heard very loudly talking about education or curriculum, how it should be done? You know, they just talk about other things, infrastructure, roads, and so on. Talk to us specifically about education and how you expect the political class to handle this.
That's where I was coming. If we have time, of course, I know we don't have much time. That is very disappointing because I start with the Constitution. When you look at the historical, philosophical, and cultural, and orientation of social specializing in education and policies, you have to translate from curriculum. The curriculum and derived from the Constitution. The constitutions are the rules we go by. I have not seen any forum with the university professors or teachers or talking about how does individual rights translate to the political process. How why should I vote for you? So there's a contradiction, and that's what my community model service learning approach. In order to understand, you have to have to be literate about the law. We are moving from personality to law and application. So there should be a curriculum already, but the politicians who talk about it, no, I don't see them going to schools, universities, having debates and discussion. Here we do engage, and we don't have to have a political science. No, it's education, whereby you learn about who you are and what your rights, so you can hold the people, the politicians, the technocrats accountable. So I have not seen that yet, and it's disappointing. Yes, to see lack of even the people who running, even the lawmakers, they do not translate the law. They just talk about each other. There's no education about awareness of, okay, what are my rights? You sent me here to protect your rights. So do you know them? The campaign should be involved in that. And
thank you.
Also,
thank you, Prof.
The lack of understanding how the law is translated, and then now with the new 2010 Katiba, constitution is very, very versatile, and we just yet to even teach about it, because that's what forms our identity, our socialization, and how we are. And
thank you,
Professor
Mutisia. Thank you very much for that, and I really look forward to your vote on 9th August, so that I'm sure you'll be voting from Diaspora.
No, unfortunately, I couldn't vote because we did not have. That's another issue. We did not have time to register here to vote. It's only a few people because the process is new to the diaspora.
Thank you.
And I am involved to finding the next election we will be able to elect to vote, because my ID I had to come home last year, but it took forever to get the ID, but I got it, but I couldn't register here because
all right.
it was too
Thank you.
late, yes.
Thank you, Professor, for that, and we really appreciate your time for waking up this early in the morning, and you've been able to talk to us in this forum. Coming back to my panelists here, from KCD, Madam Nyaga, what has KCD done to ensure that the curriculum we use in the country cares for all the learners, irrespective of their unique challenges in life?
Thank you very much. The curriculum, beginning from the mission of the curriculum, which is nurturing every learner's potential. So that is the mission of the curriculum. And how we have actualized this is, for instance, the provision of the 3 pathways. The curriculum is now more flexible. It's a broad-based curriculum where we want the learners to be able to identify what areas they want to pursue by providing a broad-based curriculum which gives them a leeway to choose what they want to do based on their abilities and based on their interest. And again, the other way through which we are making the curriculum inclusive is that if you look at our curriculum, the basic education curriculum framework, it is underpinned with principles. And I'll cite 2 critical principles that address inclusivity, and one of them is inclusivity and diversity. So those are key principles that underpin the curriculum. And then as we develop the curriculum, at any time we are developing the curriculum, we also adapt it. And I was happy to hear one of the participants here confessing that they have participated in adapting the curriculum. And we are doing it side by side. We don't wait until we have rolled out and then think about the learners with special needs. But we are doing it alongside. As we develop the regular curriculum, we adapt the same to suit the learners with special needs. So that is adequately catered for within the curriculum process.
Thank you, Madam. Even as we wind up, Madam MC, kindly feel free to wave me when you think that we should be winding up, because I might not even know what. Good, I should be winding up. Thank you. So it will be very important for me to recognize that in the house we have got students. I just want to take this opportunity to give them at least a microphone. Whoever is here, get me that microphone there. Then we engage just in one minute only. Yes. Any microphone there, please? Oh, you are there. This one is a student. Yes, you are. Yeah. Can you tell us who you are, which school are you coming from, and introduce yourself by name and tell me what you understand by CBC.
So.
No, don't touch like that. We can hear you as well.
Oh, my name is Kennedy Matete. I'm from Olympic High School, and CBC, I think, as to my understanding, is curriculum-based. CBC, curriculum-based, competency-based curriculum.
Yes,
sorry.
Yes. Yeah. So, to you, your name is Kennedy.
Yeah. Kennedy.
Yes, Kennedy. Competency-based. When you went to school 8 years ago, or maybe 14 years ago, or whichever years, could you be having some competencies in you that you feel that have not been exploited?
Yeah, like if we go the CBC way,
yes,
it gives chance to talents.
Yes.
You can now easily exploit
Go
talents.
straight to your,
And
what's
then
your talent?
I was not given that time, so I
You don't have a talent?
I don't have it.
Okay, let me hear from a female student over there. Take the microphone there, please. He looks like an athlete. He can run. To me, he has a talent of running. How I wish he could appreciate that. Yes, talk to us about which school you are coming from. Of course, it's State House. Is it State House?
Yes.
Okay. So, do you have a talent, you? Give us your name first.
My name is Trisha Mudeu from the State
I
House
can't
Girls
hear
High
her.
School.
Is that microphone on?
My name is Trisha Mudeu from the State House Girls High School. According to me, it is competency-based curriculum, which mainly deals and focuses on what a particular student wants to pursue their career. Instead of you learning 8 subjects in high school, you are specified to learn what you want to become in future. Yes.
And if you were not to take the cognitive part or the academic part of education, and you had to go into some hands-on whatever, what could you become? What could you do?
Me. Because I love dancing.
Wow. Oh, you could be a dancer.
Yes.
Beautiful. Yes. That is what I wanted to hear.
So
So,
I guess I'll just focus on becoming a great dancer and also a choreographer. Yeah.
dancing where? In church or in clubs or where?
As long as I just have to earn
Very
money.
good, very good. Dancing is dancing. I'm being told here, but dancing is dancing. You appreciate your body part and so on. Thank you very much. Makofi kwake jamani. Yeah, thank you very much, my panelists, for creating time, and we can talk about this forever. So I wish we could have more time, but for now, I just want to give you 1 minute each to wrap up and tell us what you really feel should be embraced in terms of transforming education in this country for the future, with reference to policy, frameworks, and curriculum development. Let me begin with you, Madam Odunda.
Okay, thank you. There's just something I want to touch on the issue of the debates, the political debates not touching on education. It is something that is very, very pertinent, and the voters and as Kenyans, we should even ask in these forums so that they are able to commit themselves, because as much as it's education and curriculum, when there's no political goodwill, because politicians or the executive is the one that drives the whole process. Even if you check in all the processes that have been there, in 1981, it's the second president who drove it. And in this CBC, you know very well that the current president has really supported it and all that. So if maybe an incoming government does not embrace whatever is spelled out within the curriculum reforms and does not give the required finances, then everything can be a flop. So it is important for us as Kenyans to ensure that there is that political commitment in terms of whatever curriculum that is being implemented, and in terms of the allocating of the budget and the necessary resources that are needed. And that is also tied to the Constitution 2010, from Article 53 all the way to Article 57 and even 9. You find that the issues of quality of education have been really emphasized. The issues of basic and compulsory education for children has really been emphasized. And so it is up to us to make that happen as citizens by embracing on that. But now on the other part of closing, I want to say that the government is really trying in ensuring that we get quality education. And in terms of budgetary allocations currently, like in the latest budget, we had almost 30% of the total budget committed to it. We have a lot of milestones that have happened. If you have to measure quality by these parameters, in terms of gender parity, in terms of enrollments, in terms of schools built over the years, and classrooms, the infrastructure, the textbooks, and all that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Madam Nyaga, as you wind up, maybe first of all tell me, now that you are somebody who has really come from a place called KICD where we appreciate languages, you have said that really embrace Swahili. Kamilisha methali ifuatayo. Mwenda pole. Mwenda pole hujikwa. Umejaribu? Nani atajibu hapo? Mwenda pole? Hajikwa, asante. Anyway, that was just on a lighter note. So kindly wind up with a point of closure so that when we leave here, as you go back to KICD, we still have got some bottlenecks that are coming with this embracing of KCD, CBC. What next, and what should we looking forward to?
Thank you very much. Let me start by acknowledging the student from State House Girls for saying that, that you are talented in dance, and want to tell you that in CBC, music and dance is one of the subjects that is offered. So we are looking at that diversity, and it falls within the pathway of arts and sports. We have the arts and sports pathway, we have the social sciences pathway, and then we have the STEM pathway. So that gives the learners a broad leeway to choose what they want to do. And then for me, I want to encourage us that CBC is a good program, and it's the way to go, because that is the global trend. And really, if we have to transform society, then CBC is what is going to help us as a country to transform. And actually, I think we have done a good job in terms of conceptualizing it, and many countries are even envying what Kenya is doing. So let's value what we have, let's support it, let's leverage on the synergies that we have to really support CBC so that it can move forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, on behalf of Professor Mutisia, all the way from North Carolina, Madam Jane Nyaga, Assistant Director, Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, and Madam Martha Odundo, Deputy Director of Education, Office of the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Education, Kenya, I thank you, and we wrap it up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Frank Otieno, and your great panel that was talking about policy frameworks and curriculum development. And the bottom line is that CBC is the way to go. Let us embrace it, because change is inevitable. At this juncture, I would love to give room for 2 questions. Yes, because I can see so many burning questions. But what we can do for all the rest of the questions, I would request you to write them down, and then we'll present them to the panelists. We'll create some time for them to be able to respond. You have actually 30 seconds, because we are pressed on time. I'll start with this table, and then I'll pick one from this table. Kindly, the rest of us, maybe we can write them down. I'll pick them after this, and I'll present them to the panel. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And a big thank you to the panelists. Just a comment and a question very quickly. Since independence, the Kenyan education system has had a lot of changes. My name is William Mwangi from Crawford International School, Kenya. Since independence, Kenya as a country has had a lot of changes in education system. I just hope that CBC will last. The BNC system has not changed over time. So my question actually was to Madam Nyaga on CBC. CBC is very good on paper, on panel, in summits. But on the ground, things seem to be very different. And that's why I always say that all the stakeholders need to be involved. I'm in a group of parents, and one of them has asked a question. How, in Nairobi, am I supposed to get hide, skin, and whatever, implement Sisal for a project that is due tomorrow morning? For me, my understanding on CBC was to use available materials within a certain context So that if I'm in Voi, Sisal is available. If I'm in Moranga, Hyde is available. If I'm in Nairobi, newspaper and cartons are available. I think that's what it ought to be on the ground, so that it's not on paper, but vitu kwa ground should be with anywhere else. I really appreciate. My final comment is the British National Curriculum, which we teach at Crawford, is actually what CBC is actually doing now. The State House Girls has talked about dance, accompanied by the dance teacher. So it's something very good, and I pray that the CBC will offer those opportunities to students, not just academics. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Nyaga. Maybe you could respond to that. A minute.
I'm offering to help answer that question because last year I had to deal with it. I am the immediate former chair of the private sector, Kenya Private Schools Association. And what you are highlighting is a private school problem. We are not talking about a curriculum problem. The curriculum is very clear, and that's what she was going to say. She was saying, no, it says locally available materials. But we are having now schools beginning to distinguish themselves as good CBC schools and bad CBC schools, where the teachers are unable to interpret the curriculum. And Kenyans, being Kenyans, run to Twitter, this CBC is wrong. It is not CBC that is a problem. Just the same way there are bad British curriculum schools, there are bad 844 schools, we are now having the emergence of what is bad CBC schools. And I want to underline this. You're talking about a private school problem, where teachers don't understand and interpret the curriculum correctly. So what you're talking about is interpretation. It is not a curriculum problem. It is interpretation of the curriculum. And surely unreasonableness. Why would a teacher tell a parent that the night before? The parent should also just go back to the school instead of going to Twitter and say, no, this is my school, this is my child. No, I won't do it, I can't do it. And let the teacher come up with solutions to these problems. And this is the critical thing. We are having teachers who don't know how to problem solve, teaching students how to problem solve. We are having teachers who are not innovative, asking students to be innovative, and therefore parents have to come in to try and be innovative to bridge that gap. Okay? So the issue here is how do we drag everybody into the 21st century? And I can assure you, those of us in the private sector are thinking hard about how we can bring up these teachers who are, I don't want to criticize 844, I am a product of 844. But the animal that 844 became later on, where people know only how to cram. And then now we've thrown them into the new curriculum. Yes, we have trained them. And honestly, the government has done its bit. But then what else? How else do we wake these teachers up? We need continuous professional learning so that these teachers, we can drag them into the 21st century where their students are. Today, even I, if I have a new phone, the first person I give is my child. Abu, figure this out for me. Google Chrome is supposed to be easy. For some reason, you cross a certain age and technology becomes a monster. But for these kids who have never interacted with it, it comes like this. So that is my one sort of, as we look at the curriculum, let us also remember that now we have settled into it. It is now, we are entering the 7th year of CBC. What is emerging is, this is a good CBC school, where the school has understood its mandate, where it helps and supports its teachers to interpret the curriculum. This is a school that is doing nothing about that. Thank you. I hope I've answered the question better than you would have.
Thank you very much. I'll take the last question. Here.
Do I get the freedom to choose where the next question is coming? Moderator?
Thank you. My name is Dr. Agnes. I'm a high school teacher. I probably just want to ask a question. When you talk about curriculum and vernacular, I don't know where we are now, because the area that we are in now is that we have children who do not have a first language because they are products of intermarriages. So where are we exactly? These are the children I expect to receive, of course, in high school next year. in urban setup it could work. What about in the rural setup where children do not have a first language? Their first language is Kiswahili, and we are talking about vernacular. Thank you.
All other questions, I'll kindly advise on the notebooks that you have, let's write them down. And then you can give them to Maureen. Maureen, kindly wave. Yeah, please give them to her. Remember, as we mentioned as we were starting, all these, all these feedbacks, all these recommendations, and all these concerns that you have are really going to go a long way. All this is going to be a culmination of the United Nations Secretary General, the Transforming Education Summit that is going to be held during the 77th UN General Assembly. So all these conversations are going to go a long way. Please feel free to write them down, give them to Maureen, or you can give them to me because we are pressed on time. I would also want to request us to move by table. So I think I'll be calling, we'll start there. So one table can go and have tea as we continue with the next session because we are really pressed on time and we need to move to the next session. So, so in the meantime, the first table can go and then you can come inside and have the tea inside so that we save on time, right? Yes, so we have tea outside. Yes. So the next session is going to be on the role of the non-governmental organizations in aiding education transformation. This session is going to be moderated by Ms. Sofina Merino, who's the Education Champion Inspire Teenagers Foundation. Ms. Sofina, kindly come forward as you introduce your panel. I'd love to request anyone that's outside kindly come in so that we can all be in the same forum. Karibu sana, Ms. Safina.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I hear the energy in the room is a bit low, but we will be working on that in a few. So ladies and gentlemen, please help me to welcome my esteemed panel, starting with Ms. Elena Wangui. And please let's give them a clap as they come. Karibu sana Elena. Next, I want to welcome my friend, Diogratius Magero. And then I also want to welcome Mr. Suraj Shah. And there was a lot of hype in the morning, when we mentioned Sky Girls. So I'd want all of us to know more. Why was there so much hype around Sky Girls? Help me welcome Bharat Tavares. And then online, I think we should be having Miss Aida Nganga. And I'll request maybe we can get an extra chair to the stage. All right. Hello. I think it's only proper that we start out right. And one thing I know is that we cannot overemphasize that education programs, especially right now, call for elaborate and an all-inclusive stakeholder involvement to achieve our desired outcomes. So we'll be talking more on that, but it's important to get to know who are in front of us today. So also I'll be requesting for the microphones, but just starting on my immediate right, Dio, and all of us, my panelists, please let's introduce ourselves.
Hi everyone. My name is Diogratius Magero. I'm the Youth Empowerment and Employability Advisor at Plan International.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Suraj Shah. I'm the lead for the Regional Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning at MasterCard Foundation.
Good afternoon once again. My name is Elena Wangui, project manager for a project called Let's Play and Learn from World Vision. We are talking about transformative learning, transformative education, looking at a fund-based way of learning as we support the government in the implementation of the CBC. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Hi, so my name is Bharat Tavares. I'm co-founder and director at Tandem, which is the implementation partner for the Sky Girls program in Kenya, which is an empowerment and prevention program that focuses a lot on teaching teenage girls the core soft skills they need to navigate the issues that face them.
Thank you. Let's appreciate our panelists. Okay, so I intend for us to have a very engaging conversation around the issues around partnership. And what I want you, my panelists, to help us discuss is just put into perspective what's the crucial role that NGOs play as intermediaries in ensuring, one, access to education, two, capacity building. I think we've had the conversation on the CBC, and it's come out, probably the teachers are not aware of what to do. But also, three, talk about the trends and skills and training and opportunities on a global scale. So we're going to do this. We're going to have 3 rounds of questioning. And the first round will focus on 21st century trends, skills, and opportunities. The second round will focus on collaboration efforts and recommendations. And the third round will focus on organizational initiatives, achievements, and learning, with the focus on UNESCO, World Vision, Plan International, MasterCard Foundation, and Sky Girls. So, Dio, I'd like to start with you. You've mentioned that you're the youth empowerment and a youth empowerment and employability advisor. So how is it that we can achieve holistic learning experience that enables our students to put into practical knowledge the skills they gain in school, and just translate that into the real life experience?
Thank you, Sofina, right? Looking at what has been offered before, and I like the debate between 844 and CBC that just happened. I'm one of the recent, maybe 844 graduates. A narrative of a theoretical based, education system. And I would take it a little bit further to then talk about an education, if you look at workforce development, that is really technically focused on skills that are technical. And I think for holistic development from where I sit, I would recommend that within the technical skills training, there is incorporation of mindsets and behavioral skills, which are typically called soft skills. And this is informed by, the massive research and information that we've gathered, especially from the labor market, which then generally says that we actually, or the labor market actually hires for attitude. You can learn the technical skills. Sometimes you can learn them on the job. So for me, if you talk about holistic development, I'm looking at that aspect of how do we develop a human that is ready for the market, through the mind, through the behavior, through communication and other soft skills. But I would even go further with the current trends as we're talking about, than to mention mental health and emotional intelligence. The current generation, which some of us belong to, or some of us are probably a generation or so closer to, is very fast generally, and is fast in learning, fast in doing, but also fast in reacting. So I would then look at recommending an approach to learning that is also very contextualized to the realities, both of the environment, but also of the kind of people that are exposed to that environment. And right now, mental health is a big thing that I think has to be given attention, not just as a by the way in the education system, but as an integral part of learning and holistic human development. Thank you.
started a bit high with children and students just getting into the work environment. But I want us to come back and, talk to us and share with us, especially the experience with World Vision. How is it that as a country, how can we achieve equal access to quality education, specifically at the primary level and especially among the vulnerable communities?
Thank you very much. As a country, we need to acknowledge that a lot has been done by the government in terms of coming up with different instruments and legal frameworks that help us on achieving education, access and equity to education. Looking at even at the Constitution, what has been done. The Constitution of Kenya is very, very clear on what needs to be done, and there is that provision of every child has a right to education. So a lot has been done by the government, and also looking at the new Children's Act 2022. It has also outlined very, very clearly the right to access to education. It has also been articulated very clearly in the Basic Education Act as guided by the guiding principles and value. If you all open at the Basic Education Act 2013, we have the guiding principles and values that clearly talked about the integration of learners and communities who are vulnerable. In so doing, as NGO or non-state agencies, we are coming to support the government. We are coming to support the government to reach out to the most vulnerable and marginalized communities to ensure that they have also access to quality education. By coming up with different projects, different programs that are able to support all these communities. Noting that where we are working as World Vision, we normally assess and do baseline data to identify communities which are most vulnerable. Even being guided by the census data, we are able to look at that and look at areas where we can be able to support the most vulnerable to ensure that what is outlined in the Basic Act, Education Act, the Constitution, the Children's Act, among other frameworks that we are able to support. We are able to bridge in the gap so that we don't have schools for CBC, we don't have non-schools for CBC, but we ensure that...
Thank you. Thank you so much, Elena. I want to come to you, Suraj. Elena has mentioned the Children's Act, the Basic Education Act, the Constitution. However, we are realizing there's a challenge when it comes to standardization. It has become very difficult, harmonizing a standardized education. So how is it that we can transform our education and, working as partners to meet the 21st century trends and opportunities?
Sorry, thank you. We're late, so I could talk for an hour, or myself, or more, have a whole session on this. As Elena mentioned, so I'll not reiterate on the right for education. However, you mentioned standardized education, and I want us all to pause a little bit. A lot of research, some of the valuable lessons we've learned during the pandemic when, learning was severely disrupted. Should we still aim for standardized education as we know it? Standardized education, is easy to implement. For educators, politicians, communities, it's a plus point to do standardized education and be done with it. However, we need to ask, is it promoting equity? If you think about standardized education, the students that are always considered average or below by these assessment systems will never keep up and will always stay average. Those who are excellent don't get stimulated enough and kind of start to sort of get disenchanted with the education systems. Standardized education systems also kind of have one sort of prescriptive way of assessing and solutions to problems. And what that starts to make is it reduces innovation. If you think about 21st century skills, we want the students to think independently. We want them to sort of be more creative in their solutions. I'm not sure if standardized ways is the way to go. And I think CBCs, that's what it's trying to answer, is to get away from that one prescriptive way. On the question of transforming the 21st, education to meet 21st century skills, one of the suggestions I would make for everyone here is when you get the time, download and read the research paper by Mastercard Foundation. It's actually a report. It's called the Secondary Education Africa. And again, like I said, if we had the whole day, I would quote the whole entire report. It's 167 pages. But since we've been talking about curriculum before this, there's been a lot of vocal and talk about curriculum. So I'll state two things. One of the things that research finds is that extracurricular and co-curricular activities are an important and often overlooked mechanism to promote the development of 21st century skills. Are we focusing way too much on finishing the national curriculum and not allowing the other talents to come out of our students, which are needed? Remember, well, he mentioned that he went through 844 system and he's now a parent of, CBC. I don't even want to tell you my age because I didn't do 844. I was even way before that. In my times, we excelled in a vertical and we had the jobs for those verticals. It's not the case anymore. We want our students to be a lot more horizontal based. The other thing is that effective education systems need to be aligned with curriculum reform, assessment, so that all of these work in tandem and not without. Curriculum reforms are happening. Are our assessments happening? I'll give an example. More so still, our assessments are more around knowledge acquisition than actually applying that knowledge. So all of these things need to sort of move in tandem. This has been talked about a lot, sort of skilled teaching workforce. The investment that is needed in high-skilled teachers in our schools is really something that we cannot overlook and something that everyone in this room needs to put together our efforts to make sure that that happens. On the job opportunities, and I won't take much longer than this, on the job opportunities side, you mentioned that, how do we create these 21st century skills and kind of transition them to jobs? One of the things is to realize is that our secondary school systems are not invested enough for the skills that are required. It's almost as if there's a belief that the responsibility lies in the tertiary side of education. So, secondary school systems are still very much into let's do the curriculum and let's pass our exams. If you look at the transition rates, on average in Africa, only 8% of students will move from secondary to any form of tertiary. So if we haven't done our jobs as skilling and giving them the right sort of education at secondary school levels, then I think we've done disservice. I was talking to somebody outside and I was saying, unfortunately in Kenya, TVET gets a very sort of second-hand rating or almost like an option for those who have failed in general education. Yet the amount of skills out of TVET are incredible. They almost bridge those skills needed in employment. I think what we need to do is improve that image of TVET to make sure that those are the more sought after skills, and that's that it actually attracts more of our students to go in there. I'll give an example of Senegal. Senegal's now moved TVET into the last 2 years of secondary education, so students can actually have a pathway to TVET from secondary school. and it's embedded into a national system and appreciation that these skills will actually help in industry. So I'll stop here. I know I could still talk on and on, but I hope that was enough.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Suraj. Now, Bharat, I want to come to you. You know, we've talked about the institutions, but I want us to talk about the organizations. And one of the delegates said vitu kwa ground. So the truth, for all of us know, we have NGOs coming up every now and then once funding dries up, they disappear. So Bharat, you know, I want you as a strategist in communication, branding, and initiative planning. I just want you to share with us, and you know, that young person or that individual who has an organization, so share how can we develop education models that are timely, realistic, and achievable, even as we plan out our programs?
Interesting question. So I think let's get down to, you're talking about sustainability. I think from sustainability, the first thing you have to look, and you mentioned on the ground, the key thing, so if you look at, I'll take the Sky Girls program. How do we look at sustainability is we look at the fact that we build our program in such a way that we're not limited to be open from one particular funder. We allow ourselves the flexibility to encompass multi-issue approaches. Because I think the key thing, if I can just address the broader person, then I'll bring it back to your question. The key thing, the role that the organizations play is, when we look at education holistically, there is, so apart from the knowledge and the skills, there is the other part of that needs to be taken care of, which is part from when we go into character development. When we look at the issues that are currently facing students, which, you know, kind of inhibit their ability to learn. Are we talking about the rise in teenage pregnancies? Are we talking about the rise of drug use and alcohol use as well? So there's that side of the character side of this, of the student's development that also needs to be looked at as well when we're looking at an education perspective. Because we can teach them the skills, but we need to keep them in school. We need to keep their belief in themselves and their confidence that they can achieve very high as well. So an empowerment from that perspective. So when you look at sustainability,
Nzuri sana. Si ndio?
So
You know
he
what
was
to do.
studying in front of the class and he knows. Visual aspects.
Technology enables students to get sort of technical media information literacy, which is very, very important for the 21st century. And it also enhances what they're learning on the national curricula and outside when they access technology, access the internet for information. Granted, there is still big gaps in access. I think we're also now seeing a lot of innovative technologies or edtech especially, which are bridging these sort of access gaps. I'll give you an example. There is one company that MasterCard Foundation has funded to bring out their solutions here in Kenya as well as in Rwanda, and it's called Eneza Education. Through Eneza Education, there's learning and there's kind of revision through even a feature phone, a parent's feature phone, for as low as 3 shillings flat rate a day. You can get as many questions, revision questions asked on your phone. The students also have an ability to ask a teacher a question through the same, So there are efforts to bridge these gaps in access. Yes, more needs to be done, but I think that's a conversation where a lot of people need to come into place, the government, the telcos, the edtech community, everyone together, parents, to say how do we enable more technology learning solutions. But along with technology, I think also the reforms matter. Again, the secondary education reports that I talked about have found that a lot of governments in Africa, and Kenya is one of them, are reforming the curriculum to match more the skills that are needed in today's world, and then kind of bringing in technology as a great enabler, not as a subject, but as a tool to understand and learn education. I'll stop there. There are ways to sort of bring about more learners and educators, and even those that, one of the things that I think we've learned in the pandemic is that we need to create more resilient education systems so that we don't get caught out by the loss of learning that happened. These resilient education systems need to sort of onboard a very hybrid model of learning. So this time it's the pandemic. Next, it'll be kind of political crisis or adverse weather, anything that keeps students away from bricks and mortar classrooms. Does that mean learning has to come to an end? No. If we embed a hybrid model of learning, when students are away, they can still continue with their learning. If you think about it, girls in secondary education systems tend to fall behind every month. At the end of 2 years, they've fallen behind so much that they actually drop out. If they had access to continuous learning, that might not be the case. There are huge numbers of children who actually don't make it to school, but they are learners. So if we create these hybrid models of learning, especially where curriculum is not time-bound, then I think we can make sure there's even and equitable access to education. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Suraj, because you just remind me, in the room we have the Ubongo learning, and just how can we integrate basic our curriculum into using technology. So that's very important. And Ida, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for making time. And I want to echo what Suraj said. We all need to come together. So my question to you is, do you think that NGOs have been working effectively amongst themselves and together with other education actors to make sure that we achieve a fully transformed education system, particularly in Kenya and in Africa?
All right, that's actually a very great question. Thank you so much. One of the things that you need to realize is that NGOs at the very beginning were just coming in to fill a gap that had been created by states, because it's actually supposed to be states to be doing the provision of education and definitely creating an enabling environment. So NGOs had to step in because there were such big gaps that it actually called upon a concerted effort from the non-governmental organizations to just say, okay, fine. I mean, if development has to be reached, if people have to have a quality education, then we might actually need other stakeholders on board. So having this in mind, or having this kind of history of NGO engagement in mind, I will speak from the perspective of Unesco Emerging Technologies, because I can't speak for everyone, but I just gave you, at least in a nutshell, the role of NGOs and how that came about. So with Unesco Emerging Technologies, and of course I'm so happy that Suraj talked about technology. I'm very passionate about this area. And I can see Suraj is too, and he's someone who I know very well and I admire, and we are definitely colleagues in the ecosystem. And he is very right, definitely, that of course policy has a huge role to play. And I'm very happy to say that at UNESCO Emerging Technologies, we create an environment or even a platform where not only are we having NGOs coming in with interventions, but we are also having other stakeholders such as policymakers. And we have had huge conferences, global conferences in Paris, in Bordeaux, in France. And of course, we did take part in the Mobile Week, the UNESCO Mobile Week in Paris, which happens every year. But what we are saying here is, for us, of course, as a committee, because we actually are pushing for conversations that go beyond forums and summits and workshops. We are looking at engaging other stakeholders who are working at the local arena, so to speak. And this is the reason why we're doing this, and especially we are pushing this especially in Africa, because that is where innovation is directed. The reason why we're doing this is because the conversation has to go beyond, the forums that we are always in, because we have people who are able to attend the forums in the room, but then we don't have the voice, for example, from the ground. And that's why grassroots engagement is very important. It's important for us to bring at least representatives who are able to show us a clear perspective, a clear picture of whether some of these initiatives really work. I'm glad that we had people here on the panel, actually, and even earlier on, and even the contribution from participants in the room saying that yes, the CBC is working, or no, it's not working, and even some people giving contributions from other countries. But what I feel is it's not about CBC really, because when you come in with a solution, we are supposed to give it a bit of time to see whether it's workable, and it's the feedback that makes you improve and drive the vision forward. So it's never a problem to have conversations where you're actually asking, engaging, and getting critical feedback is actually very good. But what I would like us to look at is not looking at interventions from one perspective. Why I'm excited about this forum is because there's going to be at least a follow-up on this next week, as I heard earlier before by Executive Director Daniel Juma. and of course, Dr. Tony Divine. I'm happy to hear that we will be having an engagement with government, and we will be having at least further collaboration on a larger platform, even specifically on a national platform, if we're talking in terms of Kenya. And that for me it makes me feel that we're not just talking, we're not just here to talk about things that are not going to be implemented or things that cannot be carried forward. So that is actually where the pain point is. Why stakeholders are not working together is because people have different ways of implementation. The NGOs implement things from very different ways. We actually look at red tape, and before we intervene, we have to have some kind of dialogue, which sometimes is bilateral or multilateral. When we have people, grassroots leaders and organizations are able to intervene faster because they're talking to local leaders, and they can actually put pressure on their leaders to push for their voice to be heard. So, and this is why we're saying that we should have a multi-stakeholder approach. We should have a way where whichever arena or platform we are working in, we should come together and say, how far have you gone from your platform or from your space? And then we can come up with a solution together to say, okay, fine. If this is how far one particular stakeholder has gone, what are their bottlenecks, and how can we add more pressure from our side? That's the only way it's going to work. And then finally, because I'm going to have to go off the call because I was hoping we would have ended earlier on, but I understand there was a bit of a challenge with timing, which is all right because this is how forums work. Finally, I would just say that the stakeholders who are in this room are not only those who are on the panel, they are also the participants and the individuals. On an individual level, you need to ask yourself, what can I do? If you're going on Twitter and social media and complaining about a system that's not working, then you're not really giving solutions. You're just adding fire to the, or is it oxygen to the fire? You're just making it worse. You're making a situation worse. What you can do is engage in forums like this, or even reach out to someone directly and say, yes, I saw you presenting this. I would like to give my 2 cents on that. And then follow up and give them and challenge them. But going on social media actually creates an atmosphere of dissent. And this is a work against the spirit of collaboration. And that is why we need to learn how to engage collaboratively and also positively. And so finally, I would be looking, of course, reaching out to some of you. I'll even put my contacts right here.
In multiple forums, and you tend to actually hear the same issues coming up over and over again as well. So it's like, what's next? And that next rarely comes up. So I think from a technology perspective, do we need a resource hub? Do we need a hub whereby we collect all our learnings? Suraj was talking about a lot of research that he's been through. And so if we needed to tap into it, it's difficult right now. There's not a centralized place. You could say Google, but maybe we need something more formal than that. So I think from technology, is it us pooling our resource, categorizing it, having a platform that disseminates it? Is it also, I'm reluctant to say have a forum that governs the forums, but is that even a point to say that is there a need for initiative that's just centralized and focused on that? That it is about gathering all these perspectives, bringing them together and discussing how do we create this knowledge, this pool of knowledge, and disseminate it properly in a very easy format. So technology will help the dissemination. The collection will require a lot more collaboration between us and the players, because even just from the research perspective, there's thousands of days of content that needs to be consumed there. Yeah, so I think technology is a really important thing, but there has to be the will to start the process and to identify the players who are most interested in creating that.
Thank you. And you know, he might have said it as a joke, but I've taken it very seriously. Have a forum that governs the other forums, and you know, establish a resource hub. So in 2 minutes, as you know, as we finish up, I mentioned that the last round of questions will be about the organizational initiatives, achievements, and learning. So Dio, with regards to Plan International, just share with us, you know, as representatives, how is it that you can protect the rights of school-going children and curb negative and unethical conducts? What are some of the projects you have, and how is that going? Do you need more partners? Maybe they are in this room. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You need me to respond to those 2 questions in how long? 2 minutes, you say? Thank you. I'll break them down into 2, and 2 is focused on the basic education level. And then I'm going to speak briefly about workforce development in terms of what we're doing. While we continued working with, I think since 1982 when we began working in Kenya, we have definitely supported thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of children who are now adults, professionals in different stages of their lives, getting through education, through the sponsorship program. It's unfortunate that with that continued you know, support that we have, we still have issues that need to be addressed. Maybe I'm just going to mention 3 that we can all relate, or maybe our communities can relate, the communities we work in. And one is we still have, you know, the menstrual health management issue that is then still limiting our young girls from accessing, you know, attending and retaining their time in school. And I think we still would advocate continuously and influence all partners that while, again, it is still being approached as a response mechanism, it has to be anchored in our, I guess, policies, but in action, because I think there are those policies, right? And maybe going even further to look at how do we then contextualize our safe programming, you know, interventions. When I say contextualize, it goes back to the conversation around standardizing our approach to education. We cannot, in my opinion, just say we have to standardize approach to education when one child in a community, for instance, that Heshima project works in, doesn't have a roof in their school, and another one in the city has a roof. Let's not talk about other facilities, just the roof. So in my opinion, then we continuously need to think about how do we provide safe programming within our education system that is contextualized both to gender, cultural, and other environmental realities of our learners. And I probably would even mention going further in terms of you know, avoiding what we refer to as child marriages and other manipulation. Teenage pregnancy is here with us. Teenage pregnancy is not the problem. What are the root causes? We have to think about it. The moment we look at teenage pregnancy as the problem we need to address, I think we are missing out the hidden root causes. And that is then a challenge for us. But root causes, but then teenage pregnancies and its outcomes would include school dropouts and eventually early marriages and whatever other outcomes they would have. And so the school entry, or rather the school re-entry, you know, policy has to be given strong attention. It's not exciting that we are number 3, for example, globally, And if we'll start discussing the countries, it's just, I mean, the counties, it's scary. It's shameful, sorry to say. And so I think we have to then say, while we are counting numbers of our young children that, you know, have gotten pregnant in their schooling years, we also have to probably now start counting how many of those have we taken back to school. Because it is with us. We cannot start running away from it. I think that calls for us to, you know, significantly think about listening to the young people as well. It is okay that CBC, and we want to celebrate what's happening with CBC, amazing interventions, amazing lessons learning. Some of us are wishing we probably could have been there so that our parents were there to learn with us, but now it's here with us. I think the flip side is for the pathways to be realized ultimately for success of this young person or a child, it would be great to listen to them, understand their talents, aspirations, dreams, and abilities, and help them link that to the pathways within the CBC. I think lastly, back to plan. While we've been supporting young people, as I said, over decades, or children, we also realize that these children become young people after basic education. And what next? And so we ask ourselves, so what? There's the so what question around everything we do. Was it just for us to get them to school so that they can know mathematics? Or was it that they have an empowered, thriving life? And so we went further then to say we have to move into the workforce development. And so we ran a couple of projects around that, such as Hyundai Dream Center, for example, which is located at NITA, where we're partnering with NITA and Hyundai Motors to actually train what would be defined as a vulnerable young people, especially our young women and girls, on practical skills and link them to opportunities in the automotive industry. We cannot, unfortunately, say we are transforming education if we can't measure if those going through that education are transformed. And how do we measure that? The labor market. So the question for me then would be, or rather, not necessarily a question, but a reflection is then that we cannot ultimately complete this discussion without the labor market, who are the consumers of the products of our education system. And so for us, we went further to think about, while we are supporting young people to get into such innovative projects for skills and opportunities for employment and entrepreneurship, we are actually bringing the labor market, the private sector on the table to help us, one, contribute to input of the curriculum. So for instance, we've actually reviewed the automotive curriculum training for NITA with input from the automotive industry to then produce people that meet exactly what is needed by the market. And two, the labor market also has a significant role. I'm pretty sure Mastercard is going to say more about this from the African Young Youth Works project, to also support us with linkages, linkages to attachments, industrial attachments, but also employment. And that is what now we are driving. So when I look at my role here as in terms of empowerment and employability, education is the basis. But then the consumers of the products of that education have to be on the table. Allow me to pause there, I can speak. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dio. Just talking about education in the community. And Elena, probably as you continue to answer that question, with what World Vision is doing, I want you to share on what you think can be done in order to realize a sustainable well-being of children, families, and communities in Kenya through education initiatives.
Thank you very much. Maybe I can share from our experience. World Vision is an international Christian organization which focuses on development, humanitarian and advocacy work. We work with partners to advocate for the rights of most vulnerable communities, and especially communities who have been faced with poverty. So through these, we are able to look at transformative activities or development projects which are focused so much on the realization of the SDGs. And in this case, we have categorized these into projects that are focused to the community and also to the children. For SGDs, we have projects that are targeting the SGD 3, 2, SGD 3, 4. These are goals, sustainable development goals that really focus on aspect of issues of boys and girls. So in those SGDs, we have come up with different projects or intervention. We also have other projects that are focused on SGD 1, number 8, 10, 16, and 17. These are basically which are targeting on the community, because we understand that if we leave out the community out, we will not be able to have learners who are able to access school, who are able to access education, because they'll be having challenges. So our programming are guided by these SGDs. And in those SGDs, we have come up with different activities or programs. We have programs that are focused on education. We have a technical department called Child Learning, Household and Resilience. These are, we have several programs that are looking at education component, starting from 0 to 8 years. We are looking so much on that, helping the parent, and also at the school level, working with teachers and also the communities. So we have a lot of activities geared education component or sector. And also, to ensure that children are able to go to school, we are supporting the families to ensure that they have a livelihood. They are able to have food. They are able to have something to put on the table. They are able to have some resources that can help them to even buy school materials or even support the education aspect. We are also looking at issues of protection, child protection and participation. That is very key for us as World Vision, to ensure that we are able to, noting that we are working with the vulnerable community, we are looking at issues of protection, noting that in some of the communities where we work, we have a lot of maybe challenges with the cultural practices that are harmful and they'll affect boys and girls and hinder them from accessing education. So we look at that, issues of protection, issues of participation, and the other aspect is about ensuring that we have water. I said earlier that we are working in fragile contexts and also areas where we have pockets of poverty. So we do a lot of health integrated and wash projects to ensure that we have access to water, good sanitation, so that our children are able to remain in school.
Thank you.